There we go.
Okay. People are trickling in. That's good.
Good afternoon.
Hey, Jim, how are you?
Hi, Jim.
I'm good. I'm good.
Sabrina, Tom Metz is in. I saw
Hello.
a second notice of this meeting, but it said Sunday the 26th.
I don't
That's
know
future
about,
meetings.
Hmm?
I
yeah.
think Sabrina sent out a bunch of future meeting reminders or notices or something, and so that might have been what you saw.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm looking at. But okay.
I think she
Yep.
set up the future meetings for us for the next few months.
Yay.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to be off camera for a little bit while I eat my last few bites of lunch.
Sure, that's fine.
Down my knees, like a bad these guys will take them.
So I can't tell on my screen if we have a quorum yet, but it looks like we're close.
Yeah, it looks
I
like
just
one,
I just
two.
checked, Walt, Sabrina. That was for October,
Ah, okay.
October 26th. That will work. That's a Monday.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Sorry.
No worries.
It does look like
Okay,
there's a
so
quorum.
it's great. I think we have a quorum, so we'll go ahead and get started. Um, I'm Walt Lender. I'm the chair of the New York CAC, hailing from Silver Bay on Lake George in the southern part of the watershed. I feel like I say that every time, but for those of you who don't know the southern part of the geography that well, I just want to remind you. Um, and let's take a minute to welcome Sabrina to our team. She is now going to be helping guide us and our activities, as well as the Vermont side. So she's going to be coordinating all of these activities, and we're thrilled to have her on board. We appreciate all the work that Erin has done in the past couple of years now, right, to get us through. But we appreciate having Sabrina come on board, and I'm sure Erin will enjoy being able to focus on her regular tasks, not have to deal with herding cats with this group all the time.
You can turn off one of the chainsaws you're juggling.
So before we go around the room and introduce everybody else, I was just going to give Sabrina a chance to introduce herself and give us a little bit about her background, and then we'll go around the room. So
Yeah,
Sabrina.
thanks, Walt. Thank you. I'm really excited to be working with the New York CAC. I just joined the Lake Champlain Basin Program team just a couple of weeks ago, so I'm still very new and learning a lot. I'm finishing my master's at UVM, where I studied natural resources and I looked into communications for volunteer lake monitoring. And yeah, I'm just really stoked to be here and learn from you all and get to know the basin a little bit better. So thanks for having me.
It's great to have you on board, Sabrina.
Thanks,
Really.
Sabrina. Sorry, I had to step out. We're doing a little bit of construction here, so there's some work going on. So I might have to be interrupted a couple of times throughout the meeting.
Okay.
No worries.
But thanks for the background. Thanks for the update. And let's take a minute to go around the room and introduce ourselves. Well, you know what? I'm so used to just turning this over to Erin because she can see everybody. Why don't you do the sort
Run
of
the roll call.
Yeah, and just sort of
I can do that. Yeah,
lead us on.
sounds good. Since I'm up, I'll introduce myself first. Erin Vinnie Ballrath with New York State DEC. So working between the Lake Champlain Basin programs and people with and collaborating with New York State DEC staff and projects. And I live on the Saranac River, so one of our trips to Lake Champlain. With that, I will pass it on to Vic.
Oh, good afternoon again. It's Vic Putman, president of the Boquet River Association and CAC member, as well as Trout Unlimited. So,
And where are you out of, Vic?
oh, Willsboro.
Thank you. Jim next.
I'm Jim Dawson. I was a member of the original management conference and chaired the plan of study committee that wrote the first edition of Opportunities for Action. In my day job at that time, I was a distinguished service professor in earth and environmental science at SUNY Plattsburgh. I've been retired now for 9 years, and I live on the U.S. Oval here in Plattsburgh, overlooking Lake Champlain. Oh, and for many years, I had a series of big sailboats on Lake Champlain.
Great to meet you.
Next on the list, we've got Ricky.
Hi, my name is Ricky Lauren. I've been a member for approximately 10 years, and I live in Chazy, just about a half mile off the lake. Thank you.
Thanks, Ricky. Next, we have Matt.
Hey everyone, I'm a lot of familiar faces here. Nice to see you all. I'm Matt Vaughn, Chief Scientist at the Lake Champlain Basin Program. Normally from Essex, Vermont, but today I'm calling in from another beautiful lake, Canandaigua Lake in the Finger Lakes of New York, visiting my family here. So nice to be with you, and I'll be presenting shortly.
Nice. Well, thanks for taking a day away from family to do this.
Oh, of course. Yeah, no worries.
Next on the list, we have Jenny.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jenny Patterson. I am the Executive Director of the Lake Champlain Committee. I've been in that role since January of 2025. Since birth, I have had an affiliation with Lake Champlain. I'm actually joining from the log cabin my great-grandfather built, which is right on the lake in Chazy, looking out at Isle Lamont. And his claim to fame is that he assisted with the 1929 biological survey of Lake Champlain, which I love to bring up, but very happy to be here. I'm not a member of the CAC, but I've been joining all of the meetings for the past year and a half or so, and happy to be part of the discussion.
And we appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Next on the list is Tom.
Tom Betts. I've been a member for quite a while, and I live in Plattsburgh, just south of the base area. And I'm about 150 feet from the lake. I got a road and some other houses on the other side. So, like Vic or like Jim, I have had a couple sailboats, not big ones, but they worked very well on the lake. So we're off and running.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Next is Laura.
I'm Laura Kleiber, research scientist at the Minor Institute in Shazy, New York. Live right nearby. No sailing for me. Closest I get is in my kayak.
Yeah, I'm more of a paddle boarder myself. But, and next we have Colin.
Hi, everyone. I really like this format of introducing something new about ourselves that we didn't know. This is great. Maybe we can make a practice of it. I'm the executive director of the Boquete River Association and live right on the river. Man, my phone is going crazy. Right on the river, in the middle Boquete River, in Wadhams. It's about, we have actually, weirdly enough, we have a gigantic length of waterfront due to some quirks of the deeds. I can tell that story. Apparently, some in the 1870s or something, some employee of the forge here that existed on this little stretch of river asked the owner if they could picnic on some of the owner's land. And the owner said to his clerk, just write that into the deed. And this parcel has 400 or 500 feet of waterfront. But the lot is only 150 feet wide. So it's a mushroom-shaped lot. So it makes me responsible for all the Japanese knotweed, I'm sorry to say.
Fun times.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Colin.
Next on our list is Jim Brangan.
Thanks, Aaron. I'm Jim Brangan. You all know me as the program manager for the Champlain Valley National Heritage Partnership. Right now, I'm pinch hitting as the interim director for the Nuyipik Lake Programs Division. We're hoping to have a new director in here by early fall. I live in Shelburne, Vermont. I don't own a sailboat, but I have a few friends that take me out every now and then. I'm mostly a canoe guy, so thank
As
you.
long as they bring you back, we're okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Jim. Next on the list is Mark.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mark Nod. I am a resident of South Hero, Vermont. I'm an environmental attorney, been involved with the Vermont CAC for a number of years and supporting the Basin program whenever I can, and happy to attend. Thanks.
Great to have you.
And then our last on the list is Meg.
Hi all, Meg Modley. I'm the Healthy Ecosystems and Aquatic Invasive Species Program Manager at the Basin program. I have grown up vacationing on the western shore of Lake George and didn't know I would end up spending my career working on the watershed that I grew up loving. So that's pretty cool. I also don't own fancy boats, but get to take rides. I have more paddlecraft myself. And another fun fact is I'm a big Vermont Green USL League Two soccer fan and am contemplating driving to Flint, Michigan this weekend to see the final game.
Before you go, clean out that waterway behind you. It looks full of invasives.
No worries. Thanks, Tom.
Okay, well, welcome everybody. Since this is a public meeting, we are required to do public comments. I don't see too many members of the general public out there. Most of us are either committee members or closely associated. But I'll just give a minute for any public comments that do come up. Looks like we're good to go. So we do have the minutes or the summary from the June meeting. And since we have a quorum, I'd entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Carried. Thanks, Aaron, for keeping us keeping good details of our meetings. So at this point, we have a guest speaker with us, Matt Vaughn from the Basin Program, and Meg Bodley, right, of course. And we'd like them to give us a little bit of an update on where things are with the priority research ideas. So I will happily turn it over to you guys for a little bit and look forward to what you have to present.
Hey, thanks so much, Walt. Yeah, very happy to be with you all today. Thanks for inviting us. And this can be really informal with this group. So just let us know if what we're saying is what you're looking for, or if you have any interest in anything more specific. But yeah, I talked to Sabrina about a plan here, and we can start with what we have in mind, and then feel free to push us off on a tangent. That's totally fine.
Sounds good.
So we wanted to start just by going over how the research research budget development process goes. We're always, I like to say, living in the past, present, and future when it comes to our work. So we have a lot of projects that are wrapping up in the past, things we're trying to get started right now and off the ground this fall as a present. And then we're also thinking about what research is going to be done in field season 2028, if you can believe it. So that's really what we're talking about now is kind of the future research projects. The reason we work so far in advance is we release a request for pre-proposals, meaning short pitches in September. And folks will send us kind of two to 3 page summaries of what they're thinking by this November. And our technical advisory committee will review those ideas in December. And then throughout the spring, we are kind of accepting full proposals and finalizing those decisions with the Lake Champlain Steering Committee in April of next year. And again, that would be for projects that really get started in 2028. And many of you I know have been on this committee for a while, so this will be familiar, but each year we ask for research that addresses any of our any of our topical areas that would benefit clean water, healthy ecosystems, and opportunities for action, our management plan. And we also ask our steering committee members, which includes representation of New York CAC through Walt, to suggest priorities for us to consider to focus on each fiscal year. So we do that by kind of breaking things up into different research tracks, we call them. The first track, I can share my screen here. I can try. Oh, I have to send a request. I don't know who the boss is, but
Should
did that
work.
All right, thank you. Share. So, oops. Oh boy, that's the one. So this is an example of the request for pre-proposals that went out last year. So track 1 is just anything that addresses strategies and opportunities for action. So this is really general. If it's within our mission area, then we can support that research and it'll be competed against other projects that will further the LCVP mission. And then all the other tracks are really based on submissions we received from Lake Champlain Steering Committee members. Again, that means you have representation at the Lake Champlain Steering Committee. So we want to hear from stakeholders, from partners, and from citizens like you. Do you think are the most important things, the most important knowledge gaps that we need to know more about to better manage Lake Champlain? All the research that we fund should directly inform management of Lake Champlain and our watershed to improve water quality and native species habitat. So, for example, we had a track for nutrients and contaminants, not surprisingly, a track for native species and their habitats, with lots of ideas within that category, a track for invasive species, a track for aquatic organism passage and dam removal, and a track to improve recreational opportunities there. So that's how this is kind of the synthesis and distillation of many, many ideas we received from Lake Champlain Steering Committee members. We try to synthesize and combine them into categories. We bring them to our technical advisory committee, and we go through every single idea and say, this is a worthy idea, or maybe this has already been done, and we try to provide resources for why it may not be a knowledge gap, and folks maybe we just need to do a better job of getting information out there. Or we also receive feedback like, this is a great idea, but we really don't have the resources to support this. So maybe it would be better to, talk about it with another, maybe USGS or some other organization that could do a better job of it. So it's a long process. As I said, it started 2 months ago, really, or I guess a month and a half ago, mid-June, when we reached out to steering committee members, and it's going to go all the way through September just to decide what the priorities should be for this round. And I think I heard through Sabrina that you're interested in hearing a bit about what research is going on, so that can inform what ideas you might want to see. Um, so I will. I saw Walt nodding, so I'll share my screen again, and I'm going to
Yeah,
warn
sorry,
you
I
this.
keep muting.
No, that nod was great. I understood. And so I'm going to warn you. This is the like comparison of the excitement level of the presentation versus the work is a very low ratio. The work is super exciting. My presentation is going to be very boring. It's basically just a spreadsheet I'm going to scroll through that I can provide to you, so it'll be familiar to you when you receive it by email. But this is really, really cool work. So, let's see. Okay, so this is just a list of research projects and their status. So you can see the fiscal year on the left, the project title, which gives you a pretty good idea of what we're focusing on, the status, has it started yet, or is it ongoing, or is it complete? And then the one sentence abstract. We just ask our applicants to summarize the work in one sentence for exactly purposes like this, so we can very easily translate to folks and quickly understand when you're looking at many, many projects all at once. Um, in summaries, and this is going back to fiscal year 2022. Again, we're talking about developing the program for FY 27. So this is, a handful of years. If you total everything up, we're looking at, about 60 projects that are either for all statuses. For ones that are still either ongoing or we're just getting started, I think it's 46 projects totaling over $10 million. So this is a very active program. We're funding and supporting a lot of research and a lot of good work to, again, close our knowledge gaps and better support our understanding of our ecosystems and water quality, so we can inform strong management, which is really, a central purpose of Lake Champlain Basin Program and our partnerships. I was debating, and maybe I'll just ask you or ask Walt. I could kind of scroll through this. As I said, there would be about 40 of them to go through, 46 of them to go through. That seems like a lot to scroll through. I could try to scroll through and just hit a few things you might be interested in. Or if you say, hey, can you give us some examples of fisheries research or of water quality contaminants or whatever your committee might be most interested in, I can do that. How would you like to? Or I can say, I can provide this and you all can look it over. And maybe if you want more information on any of the projects, I can come back and give a more detailed presentation. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I think that what you should do is just give us like your top 5 or 6 examples right now,
Oof.
and then share the whole spreadsheet with us, because I'm sure you've got a
So
few
hard to
favorites.
give you I will not say this is my top 5, but maybe kind of randomly I'll scroll through and just talk about a few. How about that?
That sounds fine. That
Could you
sounds
talk
great. That just gives us,
to number
it gives
7
us a
there?
feel. It'll give us a
Talk about
feel
number
for
7, the
things.
seasonal flooded wetlands
Okay, great.
versus nearshore sport fish.
Okay, yep, I can do that for sure. So let's start there. So this is a proposal that came in from SUNY research team, and their idea is to understand exactly how important seasonally flooded wetlands are to the food sources of our sport fish that live near shoreline areas. So, seasonally in the springtime, we have wetlands that are, inundated and activated with lots of food sources being kind of connected to the lake in that system that are then separated later in the summer when you have lower water levels. So what we want to understand is how important is that for our fisheries, for our sport fish and their food sources. So they're going to be doing surveys of those food sources during those flooded times and of the sport fish stomach contents to understand what that linkage is, both in the inundated period in the spring and also when it's hydrologically separated in the later fall or summer and fall. Let's see. We have eDNA, more on native species. We have eDNA work to understand the prevalence of species of greatest conservation need. So this is a survey of eDNA data to see what species are out there and what their prevalence may be. We have this one's just getting started now, looking at cyanotoxins and cyanobacteria biomass. We have a situation in Lake Champlain where, for the amount of cyanobacteria blooms that we have in some regions of the lake, we would, based on data from other regions and other lakes, we'd expect them to be higher in cyanotoxins than they are. Cyanotoxin detections are relatively low and rare in Lake Champlain, which is good. And we want to understand why. Why, and I describe this as kind of like a lucky break. What is going on that allows the lake to produce the cyanobacteria in our lake to produce less cyanotoxins than we might expect for the same level of biomass? So is a species, and actually even within a species, I'm learning about this too, as part of this project. Even within a single species, different genes can be turned on and off within cyanobacteria that makes them more or less likely to produce toxins. So is it more related to their DNA, or is it more related to environmental factors that can change? And if so, how can they change in ways that we would not like in the future? So that's going to be a really exciting one coming from University of Vermont.
Matt, quick question on that cyanobacteria. Organisms evolve toxins and other defense mechanisms in response to environmental predator stress that makes it necessary. Do we have an original stressor that caused cyanobacteria, the whole genus species, to develop toxins as a defense?
That is part of what the question is we're getting at, but I think you're thinking about it in a broader sense. Cyanobacteria, makes up hundreds or thousands of different species, and they are some of the most primitive organisms on the planet. We don't really understand exactly what triggers cyanotoxin production in most of the species. In general, it seems to be related to environmental stressors, as you said, certainly competition and the balance or stoichiometry of nutrients available in the water. We have some species that are nitrogen fixers, some that aren't. And then also the toxins themselves are have high nutrient needs. So more availability of, say, nitrogen may trigger the production of cyanotoxins.
Okay.
But certainly we know that the cyanobacteria are out there competing with other phytoplankton in the water, and that competition. And when you get cyanobacteria bloom levels of biomass, that seems to be related to the cyanotoxin production. They are certainly more detectable at higher levels of cell counts and biomass. But in general, we don't have a great understanding of what triggers cyanotoxin production, this is part of that question.
Keep working.
All right. Yes, we will. We have a few projects related to dam removal to provide some tools to our partners to better understand when dam removals would be most beneficial, or may, prevent or cause problems related to wetlands, related to sediment release and phosphorus loss, and then also fine sediment erosion and transport. So that's some, excellent work going on related to dam removals and aquatic organism passage. We have work going on to estimate the phosphorus load and water load from drainages that have not been gauged in the past. We have a good understanding of phosphorus load and water load in many of our major tributaries, but the northeast arm of the lake especially does not have any major tributaries, so we don't have a good understanding of the load to that region. And so this is currently using some pretty sophisticated statistics and some field monitoring to estimate those loads, not just during the study, but also kind of backtracking into the past and into the future. So it's going to be a model that will make those estimates.
Is that Missisquoi Bay?
Nope. This would be the northeast arm is south of Missisquoi Bay.
Okay.
Also known as the Inland Sea, kind of the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Burton Island and all that in there. Right.
Right. Exactly.
Got it.
Yep.
It does not have the same flow current as the main lake.
That's right. Yeah, it's quite it's got some different current patterns, and it's not quite as connected to the main lake because of the islands and causeways. Yep. Let's see. We have some work related to wetlands and their contributions for nutrients. We have an excellent study going on to look at lake sturgeon population size and structure within the lake. We have some natural history
Is
work
that,
on.
how many or to what extent do we do studies on the health of various species of fish in the lake?
Yeah, good question. There's a lot of work. Most of the work on the health of key sport fish is done by state agencies. So the Vermont and New York Departments of Fish and Wildlife. It's part of their regulatory duties to monitor the health of our fish populations. And the University of Vermont also does a lot of work to kind of supplement that. Meg is on. She can probably help me with that question. Meg, you want to hop in? The question, well, let's see when you pop in. Question was just monitoring the health of different fish species on the lake. I said that the state agencies mainly do that work, and we supplement where necessary. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would.
Recently, on Lake Memphremagog, they found skin cancer on some catfish. And of course, they're looking at that, looking to see whether it's spread to other lakes, looking to see whether it can be spread to humans. I'm curious about whether any work has been done on Lake Champlain on something like that.
Yeah, great question. That is certainly, I did read about that as well. Very concerning and interesting discovery there.
Yeah.
That is certainly something that the state agencies are going to be keeping an eye on. And if there is a need to do research or to monitor for that specifically, then I think the Basin program would be able to step in a timely way. Meg, do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the comments, Jim. I know it's such a recent development and a new understanding in the scientific community about this transferability of cancer between the fish. And so I'm sure there'll be a lot more questions forthcoming. And if we have if we have a role to play, we'll plug in.
Yep. Okay. That's more than 5, Walt. What do you think? Do you want me to keep going, or is that enough for now, and I can send this list out?
Yeah, if you could share the list, that would be great.
Okay.
I'm just at this point curious if people had any questions about this type of research that's being done, and any suggestions on gaps in some of that knowledge that they might want to suggest to the team.
Not a question, but just a comment. I saw the benthic cyanobacteria work that Tetra Tech is doing, and Lake Champlain Committee is working really closely with them on that. And actually, it was pretty exciting because we jointly sponsored a series of webinars where we had national experts on benthic cyanobacteria on 3 successive Tuesdays in July. And they were posted on our website. It was fascinating to me to hear the different regional perspectives on benthic cyanobacteria. Matt, I don't know whether you were on that or not, but I'm excited that we're part of it.
I can second that, Jenny. The webinar series has been excellent. I was at the first one. It was so good. And I could not make it to the second one. And I was going to email to make sure it was going to be recorded. And then I looked and easily found the first one online. So I was like, oh, they're on top of it. So
yes, all of them are online. Yeah. They're all up
good.
There now. And if you look at the Lake Champlain Committee website, and what was really interesting about it was they were each from different regions. I think one of the experts was from Wisconsin, one from Utah, and one, I believe, from Washington State. And they were dealing with different environments, whether lakes or streams. But it was just fascinating to me because I've really been trying to pay close attention to the benthic work that is really just in its beginnings right now here. But being able to share the expertise of people from across the country has been fantastic.
Definitely. Yeah, thanks, Jenny.
One of my concerns is, going back a long way, is that because of the strong interest in sport fishing, we tend to pay more attention to doing research on those fish, and really it's important to understand the entire ecology of the lake, including invertebrates and food sources, various types of plankton and zooplankton, phytoplankton that whole food chain is important for study. And I just don't. I'm not saying that we are overemphasizing sport fishing, but we do have to be careful.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks, Jim. I totally agree. And I think that's an example of where the Lake Champlain Basin Program can really be a strong partner here.
Exactly. Yeah.
As you know, like state agencies, they do focus a lot on sport fish, and for good reason. It's one, it's one of the, it's largely supported by, licenses, and we want them to keep an eye on those important species.
The
and
federal money, a lot of
right,
federal money.
Yep, exactly. But they also, state agencies also certainly care about the entire ecosystem, and that's where, Lake Champlain Basin Program and university partners can plug in. And like, for example, the University of Vermont has a food web study, exactly the things you're talking about to understand the rest of the picture. We have funded a lot of natural history on crustaceans, mollusks, and mussels, for example.
We have a number of rare and endangered mollusks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I appreciate that comment. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I have something more on the idea of a suggestion for future work or continued work. And sorry, I didn't think about it earlier in our meeting sessions to get it on the formal list for this year, but it's sort of refining and getting more information on the contributions of stream bank phosphorus. When I chased those numbers down, it's a pretty big chunk of the pie graph. And I really wanted to get a handle on it. And what I found is that most of the references went back to Tetra Tech's work in the Missisquoi Basin. And that made me wonder how well that extrapolated, for instance, to our watershed, which is 85% forested. And if we, it just didn't seem like a great site to then extrapolate to the entire Lake Champlain Basin, because we have such varied terrain and we have such varied human history of these sites, right? So we have presumably some pretty heavy nutrients added in a lot of our dairy regions, and not so much but even what we now think of our forested regions, maybe they were agricultural, 100 years ago, but I don't know if the prevalence of nutrients was as high available to farmers.
Yeah. Thanks, Colin. Great question. I agree. It's always something, there's a lot of modeling assumptions. I know that when our steering committee members and the TAC too are considering questions like that, there's always a balance of the level of the value of that precision or that accuracy versus what will be done with it. So they're weighing like, okay, if we knew that number better, like, would we do anything differently? So that's a good, I think there's arguments either way on that one. And I think, and you bringing that up just makes me think it'd be really important and helpful for Aaron and facilitation between the New York CEC and New York DEC. Doesn't have to be 100% overlap. You're allowed to have different contributions and different ideas. You do not have to agree. Don't want to make that implication, but it would be helpful to like get on somewhat of the same page so you're both aware of what the interests are and where, if New York DEC says, well, we already have a good handle on that, and, or they might say we agree and you can both submit it. But again, you do not have to match your submissions, but I think it'd be helpful to at least understand ideas from both members of the steering committee, because it's kind of distinct memberships there. And then again, to clarify, the way to submit these to us, and really we're asking for it. The original due date was August 1st. That's pretty soon, but kind of the later deadline would be mid-August, August 15th, to have, written bullet points are fine of what you all would like to see. And Sabrina and Aaron, I think you can kind of work with Walt and the committee on that and submit it to us, and we'll go from there.
Great. Thank you for that.
Helen, I can flag for you too. I was speaking with Jim Liebram out of Warren County, and we were kind of workshopping a similar question where such a since our watershed is mostly forested, then a lot of the modeled contribution comes from forested lands, but how much of that can we actually do anything about when we put in best management practices? So we were kind of workshopping something along those lines, which would be similar to the stream bank question as well.
Yeah, and I know, like and one of the reasons I thought about that, or I made that comment, is in Vermont. And again, if I don't want to dissuade you, because if the New York DEC and New York CAC are on the same page, you want to see this, absolutely great. I'll support you and work on it. When these types of questions have come up in Vermont, when it's gotten to the point of, are we going to move forward with it? The thinking was, well, we have so much phosphorus to reduce in these watersheds that if we knew that number better, we would still be doing that same amount of work. So so it wasn't what was driving their management on a yearly basis. So it wasn't, those ideas were really supported. But again, that's not to say that's not the case in New York. It's a different situation.
So Matt, you mentioned, that New York State DEC and Vermont Fish and Wildlife do a lot of the research on sport fish, or the universities are doing a lot of research on everything from stormwater to chemical, chemical levels and things like that. Is there a central clearinghouse for all this research?
Yes, great question. So we publish our Google reports on the LCBP website.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the big technical reports that can be 100 to 200 pages. It's a lot to digest. They are available, and it's nice if you're interested in a topic, reading the executive summary is a good way to get a good sense of what the research is about. But it is, you might take a day to read something like that, and it would be a lot of effort. And so we have a few years ago, we started the Lake Champlain Basin Program Science blog. I can put a link to that, where the intended audience of that blog are people like you who are informed, plugged in, managers, stakeholders. The intended audience is not the general public. We don't start from the very beginning with those posts. We make them, we're targeting like 4 or 5 minutes to read. And then we have a link to the full report in the bottom. If you want to read 200 pages, here it is. But we're trying to summarize, like, here's what the study is, here's like just the type of knowledge that you get from just talking to someone about something in general. So that what's going on. Thank you, Sabrina. So Sabrina posted the link there. And again, really, it's just that blog is to help get the word out about what research has been done, especially supported by the Lake Champlain Basin Program. Not entirely, we do some other projects as well, but that's the main purpose of that one. But the technical reports there is all of our, basically any research we do, we post the report. And then all the data is also available if you have any need for that by request.
Okay, thank you. So does that include the data that's collected by the universities and other agencies too, or is that just the?
That's right. Yeah. So if it's funded by the Lake Champlain Basin Program, then yes, it'll be in there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're doing subaward, contracts or agreements with these other entities that are doing the research on our behalf, and then we'll receive and review and approve the final work products and reports. And that will be posted. Yeah.
That's great. That's very cool. Good. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
Other questions for Matt or anybody else?
Yeah. Matt, it's Vic.
Hey, Vic. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Interested in some of the more rare species or getting rarer species in the lake, like burbot. I've read some reports that their populations are declining, and just wondering if there might be room somewhere or if there are existing studies on the demise or lack of burbot.
I don't know of any work going on for that species specifically. Meg, do you know anything about that?
No, I know it comes up periodically, Vic, at the Fish Tech Committee, but they have been so heavily focused on the salmonids, the sea lamprey. And I think it's a species that is still listed that they would want to address, but I'm not aware of any research on that population at this point.
Okay, thanks. I had a similar question on forage studies. The fisheries agencies used to conduct annual forage assessments, and I haven't heard of any lately, but I'm wondering if they are available somewhere.
They did cease a number of those, and then Ellen Marsden led up a research project that we actually funded that was a reassessment of the forage base, trying to combine methods that had been used and looking at what the Great Lakes have been doing to come up with a recommended proposal for forage fish sampling going forward, particularly looking with the lake trout recovery in mind. And so those recommendations have been completed, and I think it's now a question of who is going to be the lead on the forage fish monitoring, if that's going to be through the state agencies, through academia combined with Fed partners or what have you. So that exact answer isn't put together, but I think they were trying to come up with the best methods to continue into the future.
Yeah, thank you, Meg. I know in Lake Ontario, they do that first and then they set their limits for harvesting, if you want
Based
to
off
call
of
it
those
that,
results.
based
Yeah.
on those numbers. And
Yep.
just curious that Lake Champlain might follow suit. But thank you for your information.
Yeah, yeah.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions on research? Well,
I just sent that list, the Excel spreadsheet I shared. I was sharing there. I sent it to Sabrina. So, Sabrina, however you want to send it out, maybe with your next email or just on its own works, and then you'll have that to look at.
That'd be great. Thanks very much, Matt. We appreciate that, and we appreciate the information that you brought to us. And we look forward to hearing what the next research projects are.
Great, thank you.
We as a group will discuss from time to time, any gaps in that research that we might identify and look for more information on. So we'll get back to you on that.
Perfect.
Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. And you're welcome to stay, of course.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks. Bye.
So shifting gears, just want to give a little background on this next topic, which was an MOU for the Lake Champlain Basin Program. The Basin Program has existed for decades now, and has been sort of a remarkable combination of state and federal and local officials and departments, divisions, agencies, 2 different states, 2 different countries, a province in Canada. It's been sort of a big, remarkable experiment that's been working quite well over these years and gotten quite a bit done, and was able to bring in quite a lot of federal money, which has been fantastic for the whole region in both states and Quebec. And over the years, the federal agency that has been sort of the way that this funding got down to the Basin Program and then out to all the partners, that agency, NUIPIC, has been seeming to exert more and more control over the steering committee work and over the staff. Our staff is technically employed by NUIPIC, and it seems that there have been some blurred lines or some misinterpretations of how that federal agency governs, or whether they should even be governing at all, whether they should just be the conduit for the funding. So because there's been some discussion about that, quite a lot of tension amongst staff and steering committee on that topic, there's been a draft MOU that's been developed to help clarify those lines and the communication and the reporting and so on and so forth. That MOU has been circulated to our group. I believe you all received a copy of it. And we wanted to discuss that a little bit here in our forum, so that we have, first of all, so that we're all more informed, and second of all, so that we can bring that back to the steering committee with with our recommendations and our opinion and feelings on this. And Colin, I know you are very deep in this. I was wondering if you wanted to add a few words as well.
I guess I'm assuming that we don't know that anything has changed since our last meeting. We're waiting on the EPA report, and we're waiting on
yeah, we haven't seen the EPA report yet, as far as I know.
Right. I think I'll probably defer to Mark, who may have his finger on the pulse of this better than I do. I think I spoke at some length last time and have emailed people about it. From the brass perspective, the user end, NUIPIC has imposed new and sometimes sort of arbitrary new restrictions and well, the most recent being a change to how indirect expenses are calculated for the grantees. So this is a big hit for all of us who are grantees. It's going to reduce indirect on any project that involves construction of any kind. So if you're putting in a new culvert, you're replacing a culvert with a bridge, there's no indirect that's going to be applied to that part of the project, the construction part, or the engineering, or the design work. So apparently they're applying this only to new contracts going forward, but also anytime we're required to make an amendment to a contract, we have to abide by the new restrictions. And the way it currently works, amendments are required for very, very minor changes to the work plan. So we're kind of caught in a catch-22 on that, and I'm just not certain. I'm not enough of an expert to know if what they're doing is finally putting them more in alignment with EPA's existing regulations, which one reading of the statutes suggest that the EPA has long said you can't charge indirect for construction projects. But there's other interpretations, and I'm not certain. But it's another case of seemingly poorly articulated and possibly arbitrary decisions that really fundamentally add a giant amount of work and effort to us who are trying to do the work on the ground. And this is just the most recent. This is as of 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's just one example and a recent example, but it's been going on for years with the requirements of the QAP and other things that are contractual and just overly complicated and making it more and more difficult for the sort of boots on the ground groups to carry out what they've been funded to do. Mark, I see you unmuted. Did you want to give us some more color on this?
Well, I don't know specifically about those shifts in the QAP and the indirect. I haven't seen that. That's really the first I heard of it, and I do know that as they're under review, as NWIPCA is under review, EPA, they're very diligent about their own contractual grant compliance conditions between them, because ultimately they have the contractual relationship for grant disbursements with the EPA, with the actual funders, even though it's at the direction of the steering committee through its budget process and approvals that happen periodically, and then the grant review and the records of decisions for the specific grantees. I haven't heard anything more to update on the MOU per se. I know that Julie Moore is leading the hiring process for the subcommittee for replacing Eric. That's underway. I think the deadline might have been today. I'm not tracking it that closely. For the review to be set for approval, and I think they're looking for a September hire date once they have a clear candidate. My work recently has been trying to understand the governor's rationale for not reappointing the sitting chair of the Vermont CAC, Karina Daly, who's been the lead for the Vermont CAC at the steering committee, and in what has traditionally been standard reappointments by the governor to the Vermont CAC, he chose his prerogative to not reappoint her, while reappointing two other longstanding members and appoint two new members. It all seems very politicized and inappropriate, and I can't recall a situation like that. And it's dramatically out of practice with my 15 years of these continually, recommendations through the secretary to have membership that reflects a broad demographic, geographic, and an area of citizen expertise to bring to the table for considerations that's statutory of the Vermont Citizens Advisory Committee, but also in putting that representation at the steering committee. The Vermont CAC has a slightly enlarged role compared to the New York and Quebec CACs, which is directly to make recommendations to the steering committee. And I don't think much more. I don't think you all have a different set of statutory obligations.
No, we don't. We just have our bylaws and
Right.
sort of the charge of the steering committee.
Right. So I think where we are in my work with the subcommittee for the Vermont CAC on the MOU is supporting you all in understanding that. And I think Karina had outreach to Walt and Colin to see whether you would sign on to or support some aspects of our most recent correspondence and outreach to the steering committee on a more unified voice, because we found in the past that that's most effective. I think I shared with Colin and Walt some pieces that I've written in the last months as I thought about what's the role of steering committee, what's the role of the MOU in relation to the host entity, to NUIPCA or wherever it might be, and just some my thoughts, my advocacy, and what's the enabling statutes say, what are people's various roles with the different hats they're wearing, and why I think it's important that the MOU is more substantive than what's been proposed, to reaffirm the roles for all parties, and I think to put a check on what the host entity's role is in relation to and amplify what citizen participation's role is in making decisions about the lake, which has felt to me to be diminished, enlarged at the agency level and diminished at the citizen level.
Agreed.
During or for important considerations in the management of both the steering committee, the funds that it delegates through its budget process, and other issues in the executive committee, which is designed to work for the steering committee on a more consistent basis.
Yeah, and we want to sort of define the role of the steering committee as the one who's the real decision maker here, on behalf of those involved around the basin, rather than have some of those decisions being made for us by an agency. I mean, I understand, following certain rules for procurement and so forth, that's a kind of an agency kind of role. But as far as the operations and direction. That's what the steering committee and the executive committee are for. So I don't know if anybody has any opinions that they wanted to voice on that topic. Now would be a great time to have that discussion. If you've had a chance to take a look at the MOU and some of the supporting information that we circulated earlier.
Jim, you're muted.
Oh, we should be supporting the memo that Vermont sent. Maybe sending our own. We're going to tweak some of the language, but I think what they say makes a lot of sense.
Yes, it does. Absolutely. Other committee members want to weigh in on this?
Jenny's hand was up. Oh, I technically not a committee member, but I think you can speak.
Oh no, we're by all means, please chime in. And I can't see everybody's pictures, so if you see a hand go up, just shout out.
Yeah, no, thank you, Walt. I mean, I think as I said last time, I do think it's really important for the advisory committees to be actively participating as members of the steering committee. And I'm really glad that the New York CAC is having this discussion, because this really is the vehicle for citizens and anyone who's just interested in and cares about the lake to get involved. I think my main question was just where we stand procedurally in terms of the consideration of the MOU and whether there are any updates about that. I'm looking at the copy of the MOU that was distributed at the last New York CAC meeting, and there are some red lines. And when I went to the steering committee meeting in April, it sounded like it would be brought to a vote in September. And I'm just wondering if that's still the plan or if that's been delayed further, if anybody knows.
Appreciate hearing from somebody who's a little bit deeper in and might know. I don't know if staff are up to speed on this and can weigh in.
I'm not totally certain, but I'm not sure if Aaron might know what the status is.
I'll defer to Meg, who popped on too. I'm not sure either.
Well, and Mark, you were there in June. I think the idea, they always are suggesting that there might be a vote, but I think it depends on the feedback that they get and whether or not they're ready to move forward with that. So Mark, if you're still on, I think I recall that they were going to incorporate comments or take additional comments and come back in September, but that's pretty soon. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I think Karina also requested, I think verbally, and then as a follow-on at the request of the co-chairs in writing. And one of her requests was that no vote happened until the EPA report was issued and public, right? And there was some discussion, I think, from the EPA Region 1 rep that would take some time because it needs to go through this circuitous approval process, and then it might not even be available publicly until September. And so I don't think there was any direct response to Karina's request that I've seen, but the implication, what I heard was, and then my assumption was that the steering committee couldn't possibly vote on the MOU at the steering committee meeting in September because the information wouldn't be there to make a thoughtful, informed decision. And I think that Susan Sullivan at the time made a comment that it didn't matter whether the MOU got signed or not, which was confusing and conflicting with a lot of the prior information. So my sense was a lot of frustration that the MOU wasn't going through, which gave time for the citizens advisory committees. And I don't know what's happening with Quebec. I have a message out to Pierre to create some cohesive alignment if available. So I think the timing is right, that if we can speak with one voice, we're on track.
And I think we're moving in that direction.
Yeah.
So really, I think that EPA report is critical to this whole decision-making process, just to see what they sort of independently came up with when they did their interviews and research.
Yeah, I'll jump in with that. Karina has her first question of her 3 questions for the SAC was exactly that. How is the EPA report going to be integrated? And will you assure us that happens only after it's been given real consideration? And I think that's certainly, I would underline that bullet from our standpoint. I guess a question would be then, if we want to redraft this at all, per Jim's suggestion, who wants to take that on, or do we want to simply attach our endorsement to this existing draft? And does everybody have a copy of this?
Yeah, I think we circulated it.
We did.
Good.
Yeah, I'm all for that. That sounds like a good solution. I don't know that we need to redraft or just give our stamp of approval and support. And I don't know from our bylaws whether that requires a vote or just a statement from us. But it seems to me that it would certainly be strengthened by a vote.
Yeah, I think we should vote. And when we transmit it, indicated that it's from us, whether we send it independently or not, I don't care, but it needs to be something that we own.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
So you want to frame that into a motion, Jim?
I don't have the document in front of me because got you guys on the machine. But a motion to the effect that the New York CAC is in full agreement with the contents of the Vermont CAC letter, and then put the specifics to identify the letter of such and such a date concerning such and such.
Okay, that sounds like a motion. Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Okay, great. Any discussion further on this? Are we ready for a vote?
I'd just ask the question, are we then putting this on our own letterhead or whatever equivalent and copying pasting it onto our own? Because this one starts by saying, the Vermont, it's all coming from them directly, come from the Vermont Citizens Advisory Committee. Is it desirable to have this say NYCAC everywhere this one says Vermont?
Personally, I think we can just endorse that because we don't have our own branding and letterhead like Vermont does.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm okay with with Jim's motion being to endorse that document.
Got it.
And forward that then to the parties that need to see it. So I heard a motion and a second. Thank you both. Any further discussion? Let's do a vote. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, then it's carried. Thank you very much. So that's a good step in the right direction for us.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
And
thanks for your background information.
Who's going to follow up to make sure it gets in the package with the Vermont CAC so they get all this stuff in close proximity.
Absolutely. So Sabrina, can I lean on you to keep us moving on that?
Yeah,
And then I'll
absolutely.
send it
Yep.
whenever I need to with my as chair.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And Mark, who's the new chair in Vermont?
Well,
There
it's
wasn't one, right?
There, well, um, the nomination when you're appointed, you're appointed until you are appointed for a term until your successor is appointed and duly qualified. And I asked the governor's office to let us know whether anyone was appointed and duly qualified to replace Karina. In the past, we've always continued until you either resign or someone is specifically and duly qualified. Duly qualified means advice and consent of the Senate. I can't find anything in the Senate journals that anyone was duly appointed and qualified in this last biennial term. So Karina has been operating as if she is still chair. Breck Bowden is vice chair. There's been no meeting or vote to change that. And that's how the Vermont CAC as a membership has stood. They specifically, the entire membership sent a letter to the governor asking that he reconsider that Karina's leadership in the last 2 years has been exemplary, and there's lots of transition happening, and it's the worst time to replace leadership. And we're still waiting for a response from the governor on that. His staffer met us while he was at a political rally in Franklin County while she called in for that meeting. So it wasn't much of a meaningful response. So we're still waiting on follow-up from that. So
Okay.
Karina, until we're instructed otherwise, Breck is vice chair, and our practice started in the Vermont CAC had been to have the vice chair also attend steering committee meetings, because we set up that the vice chair is a intentional leadership succession plan. And that experience with the steering committee is important, I think. And so they started that process. And obviously, Breck had been a member of the steering committee and executive committee for a number of years anyway. So
That's true.
anything is going to both Karina and Breck right now, as far
Okay.
as Vermont CAC is concerned.
Okay.
And
That
I
makes
can,
sense.
I'll follow up with them, and Sabrina, if you need any support from me on this and connecting the dots as you're getting your feet underneath you too, I'm happy to help.
Okay,
Thank
appreciate
you.
that very much.
Okay.
I'm just forwarding the email from Karina with that letter, and that's got her email address as
Yeah.
well. So that's a good start for Sabrina.
Okay.
Great, thanks to you both. So before we get to our next topic of discussion, I just wanted to put out there, because the question did come up a little bit about succession of leadership at the Basin program. I was wondering if there's any updates, maybe from Jim, perhaps, on where we are with the search process and interview and schedule and timing of all this, just for curiosity.
Yeah, thanks, Walt. Yeah, so my understanding is that they've received a few dozen applications. The applications were due on July 19th. And my understanding is that the new director review team will be meeting the first full week of August. So I'm sure they're going to narrow it down to, the top 15 candidates, and then whittle that down to the first 7 or so, and see where they're at. So that's basically all I know about it at this point.
So the process of receiving applications is closed now, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
But the position was written that you can submit an application until the position is filled. So there may be late applications.
Okay. So that review process is underway, and then we should be hearing another month or so what it's narrowed down to.
Yeah. Ideally, the new director would start, at the steering committee meeting in September. That's at least ideally for me.
Yeah, I bet. Okay, thank you for that.
My pleasure.
Our next topic is a nomination of a vice chair. So we've been encouraged to appoint a vice chair for the New York CAC. We have not had one. I don't believe we've ever had one, looking back through history. And certainly having a vice chair helps with succession. It helps with sort of like having a backup for chairing meetings and keeping things moving. So I would like to put out there to the group that if you are interested in being a vice chair, please let me know personally. I'll discuss it with leadership at the Basin program, and we'll move from there. And what I'd like to do is at our next meeting, depending on who has raised their hand, at our next meeting in September, I'd like to be able to appoint that person to be the vice chair, and then we sort of have our roles filled at this end. So that'll give us some time between now and then, but I did want to put that out there to our full group, and just give you the opportunity to step in if you're able, if you're willing, if you are so inclined. And then we'll talk about it again in September, and whomever steps forward, I'll put sort of a summary bio out there to the rest of the group so that we can make an informed decision in September. And now it's time for updates. Are there any members that want to update on an upcoming event or something that's just happened recently in their organization? Anything exciting for the rest of us to know about in our networking, and also things that we need to put out there to the general public and help spread the word and do some of our outreach. So I'll open it up to those who are on the call, and just put your hand up or just jump in.
Laura Kleiber here. So we on Saturday here at the Institute are having an open house. It is from noon to 4, and there will be all sorts of activities, food trucks, various things going on, wagon rides. So should be a good day. Hopefully the weather holds out for us. But I know the Basin program will be tabling there as well. But so hope to maybe see some of you folks there.
Yeah. Great, thanks. Anybody else?
I'm going to nominate Vic to talk about our annual meeting.
That sounds great.
Thanks, Colin. Sure. So Brass is going to have their annual meeting on August 25th at the Williamsburg Grange from 5 to 7. Business meeting after 7, be forewarned. But we have Ben Goldfarb as our keynote speaker, who wrote Eager, and supports various habitat improvement programming, certainly, and does a lot on ethics as far as the human's attitude toward the natural world. So that ought to be interesting, especially since Brass built a beaver dam analog last fall and was occupied in the winter. So we're seeing a lot of positive impacts on sedimentation, obviously erosion, and habitat improvement in that respect. Also, we have our second employee starting a week from today. Emily.
Good for you. That's great.
Yeah. Yep. So I'm real excited that grass is growing, and look out. So
I'm sure Colin's looking forward to having some help.
oh yes. Me too, for that matter. So
Yeah.
I'm sure Colin has a lot more to say than I do because he's more in the weeds than I.
Yeah, I'll tack a few things on. We also have a new office in Wadhams, right next to the waterfall and next to the Matt Foley's power plant. I also want to mention that this is Brass's 40th anniversary, and that'll be part of our annual meeting celebration. Most remarkable of all, we have one board member who has served from the signing documents. That is Matt Foley, the owner of River Rat Glass and Electric, the hydropower operator right in Wadhams. And that plant, built in 1905, is still supplying power to the grid on a regular basis. And in fact, is sometimes called on when the propane plants can't do enough or have to shut down. He gets a phone call and goes down and flips another turbine on. Yeah. So 40 years with Brass. What a piece of institutional memory. We're so lucky to have so many people of his depth of experience and knowledge, Vic, of course, included. The on the ground projects that are lighting us up this month are the final demolition of a FEMA buyout in Westport. It took a lot of twists and turns of federal paperwork to get us to the demolition and eventual creation of open space on Hoisington Brook and Westport. It's going to be a real flood mitigation win for the whole town, which sits downstream of that. And we should see reduced flood levels all the way through town. And we have a bridge and fish weir removal project that's moving ahead to happen in September. These are the latter financed by the Basin Program. Thank you. And we're just making the baby steps on 3 or 4 other Basin Program projects. So, and 2 WQIP grants.
That sounds like a pretty full plate.
It's why we need Emily Perwicki, who is a recent master's graduate of SUNY Plattsburgh. A fabulous. Some of you may have met her at outreach events. She worked for Sea Grant. She's led outdoor education since she was 10. She's just a super people person and a great scientist. Created and finished her own master's program in 1 year. Yeah, real superstar. We're so lucky to have her, and we found her housing, which might be the trickiest part of all.
In the Northeast, absolutely is. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So she'll be joining us next time.
Happy for you guys, and happy to be there next time we meet.
Great.
Anybody else want to fill us in? Go ahead, Jenny.
Just a couple things. Lake Champlain Committee, our community science programs are in full swing. Our cyanobacteria monitoring program and the tracker that is maintained for cyanobacteria throughout Lake Champlain and Vermont inland lakes. I can put some links up there if anyone is interested. I have been really trying to focus on having more New York volunteers and more support for New York volunteers, because that's how I started with Lake Champlain Committee. So we have that program. We also have the CHAMP Aquatic Invasive Species Monitoring Program, which Meg is a key part of. So thank you, Meg. I think we've maxed out that program for the year. We've got lots of volunteers. It's very exciting. And then this is the first year that the Lakewise program is being offered in New York State, and the Lake Champlain Committee is conducting assessments. This is a program about voluntary practices that shorefront property owners can make. It's a stormwater program, to reduce the stormwater impacts and improve habitat. So we're actually, I think, doing our first assessment today, and we have some scheduled, but I'll put the link in the chat if anybody has Lake Champlain shorefront property and would like to schedule a lake-wise assessment. And then last but not least, LCC, we have hired a person for our New York staff position, and the person is starting on September 1st. So we're not announcing who it is yet because we want them to have started by then, but we also are very excited, and it's really going to be great to have someone who is working full-time in New York.
That's great.
Good, you're growing. I have a historical type item to throw in. Jim may want to link in here with the New England historical region stuff. On the 26th of August, there is a celebration Women's Equality Day from 12 to 2 at the Sable Chasm Pavilion. 26th is when the 20th Amendment was ratified. So, history in the making. How goes the Spitfire project?
Well, it was actually the 19th Amendment.
19th.
Yes. Yeah. 20th repealed prohibition. So anyway,
yeah, that one was important too. We need to celebrate that, right?
Yeah. So that's great news. I'm glad to hear that the people of Clinton County are continuing that work. They did a fantastic job for the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment passing in 2020. In fact, they were so disappointed by the turnout in 2020, the COVID year, that they pulled out the stops and did it all over and with more panache in 2021. So I'm sure they've got some good things to offer this August. And also, you all should be aware that the Battle of Plattsburgh commemorative weekend is happening on October 11th. For you history buffs, get out there. The Clinton County Historical
September
Association. 11th. October 11th. Did I say September 11th?
Yeah.
Battle of Plattsburgh is September.
Yeah, no, the Battle of Alcor.
Okay.
Yeah, October 11th. You got a bunch of battles over there. So you got one on the 11th of September, and then you have one on the 11th of October. So take your pick. So one in September is the War of 1812. One in October is the American Revolution.
Yeah, what's up?
Cool.
Anybody else? Anything that we need to hear from DEC about? Anything coming up?
Not that I know of.
Don't mean to put you on the spot, but usually there's something coming up.
Yeah, like the WQIP, NPG, like our big water quality grants, I think are closing at the end of this week for DEC. And then that's a long process of review and awarding. We've been working with our different partners around the lake and the watershed for water chestnut management. So at least for the New York portion of the work, we contract with the town of Dresden, who does a lot of harvesting with the big mechanical harvests on the southern end of the lake. And they're up and running, along with Meg and her boat stewards and the APIP team and some other partners up in the Plattsburgh area. We did a water chestnut pull at the Wilcox Dock area. We've had a few populations that are popping up coming out of this Commotion Creek up there. So it seems like we're able to keep the numbers low, but it means we're going out there every year to do hand harvesting in that area. So I think we'll be going out again in August. So if anybody's interested in getting out on a boat and pulling some water chestnut, let me know and I can get you that August date for when we'll be out there again. I think that's it. Unless people have questions for me about stuff I should be updating on.
I've got a couple of things. The Champlain Valley National Heritage Partnership has a open grant RFP for projects that focus on the conservation and community interpretive theme, specifically the Biosphere in Your Backyard campaign. Dr. Dawson was one of the people that put together the application for the Champlain Adirondack Biosphere back in the day, submitted by the Department of State in 1989 and approved by UNESCO. So in 2029, we'll be marking our 40th anniversary. But in the meantime, we have $80,000 for grants of up to $15,000 to focus on that human interaction in the landscape work that we like to do. So I just put a link in the chat for y'all. There's also the 17th annual Champlain Valley National Heritage Partnership International Summit. Since we include Quebec, we refer to ourselves as international. That will be in Burlington on the 23rd of September, and you all will get an advanced invitation to not just the summit, but also the field trip, which will include a visit to the Ethan Allen Homestead, a stop by to check out the Burlington City Arts Artist in Residence program that has brought in, I think, almost 24 student artists to interpret the underground water infrastructure of Burlington. So the stormwater, the wastewater, all that good stuff. These artists are imagining it for us to learn a little bit more about how the infrastructure works. And then there's also a tour aboard the research vessel Marcel Malosara, where the director of the Lake Champlain Maritime Museum will lead ROV tours of shipwrecks in Burlington Bay. So you'll get an advanced invitation, and the summit itself will be held at the Hotel Champlain right on the waterfront. That's the big hotel that's gone through iterations of name changes over the years.
Okay, thanks for that update, Jim.
Yeah, hope you all can make it.
Jim, that's a great lineup, by the way.
Yeah, thank you, Colin.
That's
I thought
fantastic.
you'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Great
hopefully see you next month in September.
Sure.
Anybody else? Okay, so no more announcements, but feel free to share with the group. And by all means, use this group as a way to get information out there. It's great when you share it, and then we can share it with our email lists and so forth. So don't hesitate. Sabrina, anything that you wanted to talk about to wrap up here?
Yeah, I was curious if you all were planning to meet in August or just September, because I did send out an invite, but I wasn't sure. So
Oh, you did an August invite? I didn't look that closely at them yet.
Oh, August 31st.
Okay. I'm not opposed.
I'm not either.
Can I suggest that certainly we meet if there's been updates or changes to the situation with the MOU or the EPA report in particular?
That makes a lot of sense, Colin. Yeah.
And then if we don't have sort of new business in that nature, I'd be fine waiting till September.
Okay. So we'll leave it on the books, and as we get closer, if more information comes out, we'll share that and have the meeting. And if not, then we can just skip it and move on to September.
Okay.
Yeah.
sounds great.
Okay.
Fine.
Okay, thanks. Okay, well, thanks everybody for joining today. Appreciate that you took the time out of your day, especially Matt taking the time out of his vacation at Canandaigua.
Yeah.
Hope that everybody has a good next couple of weeks here, and it's a busy summer around here. I don't know how you guys are doing, but
Yeah.
it's a little crazy this year.
Hey, Paul, if you got 2 minutes, could you hang on?
Yeah, I can stay on, sure.
Great, thank you.
Well, thanks everybody.
Good
Thank
seeing
you.
everyone.
Thank you. Welcome, Sabrina, and hang in there. It's gonna be a good ride.
Thank you. Appreciate
Or a
it.
stale, as the case might be.
Yeah, right. Good to see you all. Thank you.
Have a good one.
I know. So, we have the steering committee